Welcome to the Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Nicastro. We are here today at Field Service Next West. First time the event has been in San Diego, and I'm joined by Greg Parker, who is the Vice President for America's Lifecycle Solutions at Johnson Controls. Greg, thank you for being here with me.
It is so good to be here with you, Sarah, today.
It has been a while since you were on the podcast.
It has, a few years. I'm not sure, maybe 5 years or so.
It's been quite a while. Yeah, a lot has happened in that time. You're in a new role. We have a new name. The podcast was Future Field Service. Now it's Unscripted. And I'm excited to have you back. So you are speaking at the event about how your team transformed security and service delivery at Fenway.
Yes.
What a cool story. Yeah, I mean, an iconic venue with a lot of history. So tell us a little bit about that project, that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So what a park, right? I mean, I know that you've been there and
Yes.
I've been there too, right?
Yes.
So at a time in the past, we both got to go to the Fenway Park, and that, along with some other, historic ballparks here in the States, has been just an amazing experience to go and say, wow, look at the history, look at the big green wall, look at all these things that are there. The reason that this becomes such a cool story is because a lot of times people don't really understand and appreciate what goes into maintaining security, not only at a ballpark, but certainly at where preservation is really important, and not making it look and feel like you've got a lot of new equipment and a lot of new things, right? And so strategically where you place equipment, and then on top of that, how do you ensure that you're delivering to the outcomes that they're needed? And those outcomes can be a lot more complicated than let's keep everybody safe.
Right. Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I just think it would be such a cool experience to sort of, we've both been there as, fans and enthusiasts who enjoy a game, but to sort of see the park from a different context, of sort of the behind the scenes. And to your point, it sounds like they're very particular about the preservation of the history and the legacy of the ballpark. And so you have to kind of work around those things.
Yeah.
So security is a part of this. Now, a big part of what you're talking about here at the event is the fact that you have done all of this while achieving 95% remote issue resolution. So can you talk a little bit about, what are the kind of outcomes that Fenway is asking Johnson Controls to provide, and how have you done such a high percentage of that with remote resolution?
Sure. So when you think about security assets, a lot of times people think about the video cameras, but then there's also access control, readers, there's mass communication. So there's a lot of different things, and all of these different assets have to play together. Mm-hmm. So it's similar yet different to an IT environment where you have assets that have to communicate and work in harmony. Mm-hmm. So what happens is these assets, and this is a national average, but on a national average, about 25% of any customer's assets, they don't even know if they still exist or not. Mm-hmm. So imagine I have within that facility, and I'm guessing they have about 1,000 cameras. And of the 1,000 cameras, 250, they didn't even know if they're working or not, mm-hmm. right? So one thing that's important to the folks at Fenway and the Boston Red Sox is to not only understand, are we proactively protecting our guests versus a reactive, we documented it and we can find who the perpetrator was. Mm-hmm. If you're proactively managing your security, then you not only know if your asset is working, you know that it's working the way that you intended it to work to begin with. Mm-hmm. So consider a camera. A camera should be positioned at a very particular angle, mm-hmm. in order to get what you want in the frame, just like the camera we're using here today. Also, you have to ensure that the firmware that's running on that camera is not necessarily the latest, but it's the proper firmware. Mm-hmm. And so just like an iPhone or any other device like that, once it gets so old, it's simply not going to operate properly.
Mhm.
And then you have vandalism. So at times people will say, look, I'll just turn the camera this way or I will
Mhm.
spray paint it. How do you know about that without using your staff to go and check all of these things? So what we did with this particular outcome to manage those assets is we have a program called Connected Security,
Mhm.
and it is a managed service. So what that means when I say managed service is I'm really getting two outcomes for one. We have a staff of people
Mhm.
located in Birmingham, Alabama, that they will get an alert if that camera, if that reader, if whatever asset is not performing the way that the customer intended it to operate.
Mhm.
And then they can manage what to do about that um, without even sending a technician
Mhm.
95% of the time. Because when you say, when I look at it, even when I first looked at it, I said 95% of the time, wow, that's really high.
Mhm.
But when you think about the number of times that the technician has to go out there for every reactive call,
Mhm.
and then perhaps has to go back if it's not a first time fix,
Mhm.
that can all be mitigated if you proactively are managing these assets. So that remaining 5%, the only time that you would send a tech is if indeed maybe the camera is broken or
Right.
maybe is turned the wrong way or something like that.
Mhm.
So we help mitigate their staffing concerns,
Mhm.
meaning Fenway staffing concerns,
Mhm.
because not only do you have to have an army of people to manage an event while the event is occurring,
Mhm.
you still have to have people on staff all week long, 24/7,
Right.
one way or the other.
Sure.
And so if we can help manage those assets proactively, then those staffing concerns can be, I would say, mitigated a bit, at
Mhm.
least,
Mhm.
in addition to knowing how my assets are performing. And then lastly, consider the amount of investment that they have in security. This is a way to know, because of the life cycle of the equipment,
Mhm.
you will know when it's time to upgrade, and you can make those decisions with data
Mhm.
that says, here's my business case. I know I'm going to have to upgrade my access control system within 3 to 5 years because here's an input, firmware is going to be outdated. Here's another
Mhm.
input, we're going to be on mobile credentials, et cetera. So they can at least narrow down the range, and therefore we can help them with their capital planning and asset management as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. And can you talk a little bit about the role AI is playing in the proactive nature of the service you're providing here?
Yeah, sure. So really in this situation, what we've done is we've leveraged AI to really inform our people so
Mhm.
that they can scale and respond faster. So imagine in Birmingham, if we have like 8 to 10 people on average, and in an old world without AI, it would have been more of a linear scale. Hey, we picked up 10 more customers. We're going to have to ramp up 5 more people.
Mhm.
In this situation, what happens is AI is really taking all of this data and it's teeing up for the individuals so
Mhm.
that they can become more and more productive and manage more opportunities so that a literal action they can take with human judgment.
Mhm.
Some would say, well, you could use AI to perform the judgment calls as well, but I don't think that we're quite ready to do that, and neither are our customers.
Mhm.
So the human in the middle is what we like to call it,
Mhm.
and we make sure that we use good judgment. And that also helps with the reduction of false alarms, which many municipalities, as well as ballparks like Fenway, will pay huge fines for false alarms and calling 911 when nothing was really
Yeah.
occurring.
Yeah. It's interesting you brought up the idea of how AI is helping you queue up, knowledge and data for those folks in Birmingham to make this process more scalable. And that's been a theme here at the event. So yesterday, Brad from Siemens kicked off with a keynote where he spoke and you know repeated multiple times in that session the fact that the digital platform and AI is so crucial today to be scalable in the way that we need to provide the service that companies or customers expect, right? So this, he said a couple of times, like, you can't do this with manpower alone. You really have to look for this best marriage
Right.
of how do we use our people, but enable them to do more to achieve the capacity we need and the scale we need using these technologies. So,
And with that, what it also happens is your errors, not just false alarms, but the human errors
yeah.
also go down as well because you've got better data that you're
hmm
making decisions on.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're searching less for it, right? You know,
Yeah.
you're not going out and digging. It's kind of queued up for you in a way that streamlines the entire process. So you're speaking here about the orchestration of field operations, central command, the connected systems, and the use of AI to sort of all work in harmony to achieve the outcome for Fenway. What is key to sort of achieving that harmony? You know, how do you get those pieces working together in a way that helps you be successful in the outcome?
When you map out an offering, particularly a managed service offering, you have to look at it end to end. And that it actually begins even with how do I take an order?
Mm-hmm.
uh, where the sausage is made, if you will, in the middle of how does the central command work with the connected and all of those sorts of things. They all have to be looked at together,
Mm-hmm.
almost in a parallel and agile way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the outcome of how you bill for that service actually is very important too. And if you miss one thing in the value stream, then you're likely going to have a gap in
Mm-hmm.
not only your ability to execute, but potentially you didn't hit the mark for what the customer outcome needed to be.
Right.
So the way we did it was we used a stage gate approach. We ensured that the right subject matter experts were represented from all the different teams.
Mm-hmm.
And the team leader from our team ensured that we were keeping everyone on pace and that the communication and the swim lanes were all properly done. Um, for example, with the managed services group in Birmingham, uh, they were able to find a few of things that weren't working exactly properly. We
Mm-hmm.
call them bugs at times before we launched the product.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some things like that would have absolutely been overlooked, and they were so minor. But these minor bugs create an inability to perform
Mm-hmm.
in the end.
Yeah.
So unless you do that, you're going to be opening yourself up for a lot more risk. And
Mm-hmm.
that's in the development of it. So now that we're executing on the offering, it's a lot more seamless.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, let's say at Fenway, uh, a camera goes offline,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe someone spray paints it during the week.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as it happens, the AI will say, alert,
Mm-hmm.
this is not the way it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it's supposed to originally was.
Mm-hmm.
And then that alert will show up in Birmingham. It will be teed up to that individual in a way to where it isn't just a long list of alerts
Mm-hmm.
like we used to see a few years ago. It will be very specific. It will be prioritized in the level of alert that it is.
Mm-hmm.
Then the operator in Birmingham, the engineer, will have some decision scripts that they will use, and it could be as simple as send a tech,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the situation, or it could be as simple as no, this simply went offline due to a glitch in the internet, and
Mm-hmm.
all we got to do is reboot it, and they can do it in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one example. So, and many times that's why I think we see 95% reduction of truck rolls, because many times it is as simple as that.
Right. But if you didn't have that information before, you don't know, and
We don't know.
therefore
So
you
you have
can't
to send a
do it
tech and
remotely.
they have
Right.
to look at the system and they say, oh, well, this is easy. I'll just reboot it. And then they leave.
Right.
Well, we invested money in sending a tech, and the customer, if they're paying us on a contract,
Right.
they just see downtime.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not paying us on a contract, then they're seeing it as billable time that they had to pay for.
Right. And that's where, you know, this topic of scalability becomes so interesting, because the way that this is all orchestrated and works together allows a lot more of these outcomes based or managed services type arrangements, because you have the visibility to take a proactive approach, which makes organizations more comfortable with the acceptance of risk, in the sense of, if we don't perform, we don't get paid, or if we don't perform, we have these penalties. In a world where you don't have that visibility and you don't have those capabilities to resolve issues remotely, you wouldn't want to take that risk, right?
Right.
But in in today's landscape, all of those things can work together in a way that really creates a lot more opportunity than ever existed before.
Absolutely. And as we form service agreements today and in the future, the ability and the expectation that those assets will be connected in a way that we can glean that sort of data to mitigate that risk, both on our end and for the customer, will be table stakes. It won't be do you want to connect? It will be just a part of the agreement.
Yeah. And it's interesting because this is, part of what's affecting customer expectations, because if you can have this sort of agreement in place where you're paying for an outcome, right? Companies or organizations like Fenway are no longer going to be interested in the type of arrangement where they are responsible for paying for those truck rolls, because the organization doesn't know what the issue is, right?
Right.
So it's just interesting how, we're at sort of this pivotal moment in not only what's possible, but how that's changing the expectation of the customers that everyone serves. And obviously some organizations are further along on the journey of, keeping pace with that change than others. So really cool story. What is one lesson you've learned from this project that you'll carry with you into the next?
One lesson learned, I think, is, this is one of the first, I call it high exposure projects that we did with this offering. We've done some other projects with this offering. The offering is relatively new. It's certainly less than 2 years old. But as far as a high profile offering for a ballpark like Fenway, this is the first one. I think the level of diligence for a stadium or an event that you really have to take super care to is at another level than, say, for example, not to discount other vertical markets whatsoever, but if you are in higher ed, you care about the students, you care about the parents, but you also don't necessarily have them all congregated 80,000 in one spot.
Right.
So you have those things do matter, and the way that you attack those problems do matter. So that level of diligence down to the fifth level of detail becomes really important for these sorts of stadiums.
Yeah. Very interesting. Really cool. Do you get free tickets?
I do not.
Oh, come on. But it has to be
maybe someone that hears this will send some my way. But
it has to be really cool, though, to go to a game now and kind of have this completely different context, than you did way back when. So,
and you'll hear when I do the presentation, I'll briefly speak about it as a good honorable mention. But we also do Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee, and that is a place that we've actually expanded even deeper and broader.
Very cool.
And so I'll give a couple of hints to that one as well.
Excellent. Well, Greg, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and chat and to share with everyone a bit of the story that you're sharing here. Great to have you back, and always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can find more by visiting the home of Unscripted at futureoffieldservice.com. The podcast is published in partnership with IFS. You can find more at ifs.com. As always, thank you for listening.